believe UI5 is unlike other releases of our user interface in that we've not focused on features, we've focused on technology. We've replaced our user interface running on Silverlight with a UI running on HTML5. This means that we've limited the changes to technology and not new features. In addition, we've updated the UI to the new Ellucian standard so that all Ellucian products have a similar look and feel. In other words, you already know what's in UI5, you just don't know where to find it. Yet. Don't worry, it's all there. Let's take a look at a pretty familiar form, NAE. We'll look at the form area first. The mnemonic is at the top of the form area. You'll notice the star next to the name. If you want to make the form a favorite, just click on the star. Next to the mnemonic are the standard Save, Save All, Cancel, and Cancel All buttons. Like in UI4, information-only fields are grayed out. Required fields are in red, with a dot in the upper left-hand corner. Windows are in the shaded boxes. When you click on one, the window controller will pop up. The paging controls are there just as before, as is the export to Excel. One new feature is that you can move the controller around the whole form, not just right above the window. Validation code pull-downs are the boxes with the down-pointing arrow. As in UI4, clicking on the arrow brings up the validation code choices. There are two icons you already know, Detail and Calendar. There is also now a Calculator icon, but as there is none on NAE, let's detail to FINF. This is what the submenu looks like in UI5. Opening FINF, you'll see this icon is the Calculator icon. You can enter the text manually, or if the field needs calculation, you can pull up the calculator and enter the calculation. Let's go back to NAE. With the country field, let's take a look at a new feature. The ellipsis, or ... is called a decorator. This tells you that this is a lookup field, rather than in UI4, which was a tiny alert in the footer of the form. The decorator doesn't do the lookup, it lets you know there is a lookup on this field. If you hover over it, it will tell you the lookup. The decorator will not show if you have data in the field, for example, in the archived ethnic field. Let's move to the context card. Note that all the icons have hover text. You'll notice that if you hover over an icon, there will be a bit of help text. The first icon to the left of the context card is the push pin, which is how you keep the record or records in context when moving between forms. When the record is not to be held in context, the context card is not colored. When the record is held in context, the pin and the context card, or cards, are colored like you see here. Note, in UI4 the pushpin meant mapping, but there's a new standard for mapping icons. We'll cover that in a moment. The next icon, the question mark, is for help with the context card. As you generally see in most browser applications, the question mark is for help throughout UI5. Finally, the last icon, the downward arrow, is used to view all records you have in context. Moving to the right-hand side, the X is to cancel the record in context. Again, throughout UI5, the X will mean cancel. The star is for adding the record in context favorites, as it was in UI4. Throughout UI5, the star is used to add or access favorites. The final icon is for maps, which is not yet enabled. You'll notice it resembles the mapping icon in Google Maps. The context card itself is the same, with a couple of differences. For example, you can now copy text from the card. There is no more Launch Copy Window button. The Where Used display shows the first 3 records. If there are more than 3, you'll see an ellipsis, and if you hover over it, it shows them all. You'll also see in the email that there's an ellipsis, as the email is longer than the space allocated in the context card. Should there be more than one record in the context cards, you move between them by clicking on the arrows indicated, which are grayed out here as there's only one record in context. Moving to the area above the context card, the 2 icons at the left are toggles for form search and person search. The search itself is the box to the right of the toggles. To do the search, just add text and hit Enter or click on the magnifying glass. As you type, your search history will narrow down to the characters you've entered, As you can see here in the form search, typing an N shows forms I've accessed with an N in the mnemonic or description. The down arrow shows your search history, person or form, depending on the toggle. The little backwards clock icon shows the results of your last search history. This was the search results function in UI4. Finally, navigate is what was navigation in UI4, but in UI5, you're able to see all the applications are available at the top level. For example, here is ST, and here is Core with a submenu showing. Moving down the left-hand side, you recognize the star as Favorites, inside of which are the favorites for person and forms. If you use favorites, here is what the pop-up menu for it looks like. The question mark is Help. The person in the circle is one of the two places you use to log out. You'll see the other in a moment. The item that looks like a printer is how you print out the form. Finally, the form size slider is the sliding button with the plus and minus signs. This increases or decreases the size of the form for readability. At the top of the page, in the upper right, there's a gear icon. In most applications, this is for settings and miscellaneous functions. Here are the menu items in this icon. In Preferences, you'll see color preferences, as well as other items that are preferences you can set. Your UI administrator can set a default color for each environment, but you can override this. The rest of the preferences are ones you would find on the Options menu in UI4. Finally, you can also log out from this menu as well. This concludes our tour of UI5. We hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for joining us.